My name is Julia Winters, and I'm about to share something that completely transformed my understanding of life, death, and the eternal glory that awaits us in heaven. What I experienced during my brief departure from this world was so profound, so beautiful, that it took me months to fully process it. Even now, as I share this story with you, tears of joy stream down my face as I remember the precious moments I spent witnessing the pure love and joy of children in heaven. It was a typical Tuesday evening in October. I had just finished my shift at the medical clinic where I work as a nurse practitioner. The autumn air was crisp, and the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple. I remember thinking about how beautiful the sunset was as I drove home, completely unaware that in just moments, my life would change forever. I was only 10 minutes from my house when it happened. A truck driver, who had fallen asleep at the wheel, crossed the median. I remember seeing the headlights coming toward me, the screech of tires, and then nothing. The paramedics later told me that my heart had stopped for 5 minutes and 43 seconds. During those moments, when my physical body lay broken and lifeless on the asphalt, my spirit experienced something so extraordinary that no earthly words can fully capture its magnificence. The transition was instant. One moment, I was in my car, and the next, I found myself in a state of perfect peace and awareness. There was no pain, no fear, just an overwhelming sense of being embraced by pure love. The first thing I noticed was the light. Not a harsh, blinding light, but a warm, living radiance that seemed to emanate from everything and everyone around me. And then I saw him. Jesus stood before me, his presence so powerful yet so gentle that I fell to my knees in worship. His face shone with a love so pure and perfect that it brought tears to my eyes. He looked exactly as Scripture describes him, but somehow even more real, more present than any earthly being I'd ever encountered. His eyes held the wisdom of eternity, and his smile conveyed a welcome that made me feel completely known and perfectly loved. "Julia," he said, and his voice resonated through my very being. "I have something to show you. Come." He extended his hand, and as I took it, we began to move through what I can only describe as a realm of pure light and joy. The colors here were more vibrant than anything on Earth, colors that don't even exist in our earthly spectrum. The air itself seemed to sing with praise. As we moved through this heavenly realm, I began to hear something that made my heart leap, the sound of children laughing. But this wasn't just any laughter. It was the purest, most joyful sound I had ever heard. It was like a symphony of happiness, completely free from any hint of pain, fear, or sadness. Jesus led me to what appeared to be a vast garden, more beautiful than any earthly paradise. The flowers here were alive with color and light, and they seemed to respond to the presence of the children who played among them. Trees with leaves of gold and silver swayed in a gentle breeze, their branches reaching toward an ever-present light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. And the children. Oh, the children. They were everywhere, their faces radiant with joy and peace. Some appeared to be teaching younger ones about the flowers and trees, sharing wisdom that seemed far beyond earthly understanding. Others were engaged in what looked like games, but I realized they were actually acting out great stories of faith and courage from throughout history. "These little ones," Jesus explained, his voice filled with tender love, "are precious in my sight. Here they continue to grow in wisdom and love, but without the pain and suffering of the earthly realm. They teach each other about my Father's creation, share the stories of faith that have shaped humanity, and help prepare welcomes for those who are yet to come." I watched in amazement as a group of children gathered around what appeared to be a three-dimensional map of the universe. They were studying the intricate patterns of stars and galaxies, their faces alight with wonder as they learned about the vastness of God's creation. One child, who couldn't have been more than 6 when they came to heaven, was explaining complex celestial mechanics to the others with perfect understanding. In heaven, Jesus continued, knowledge is not limited by earthly constraints. These children understand mysteries that the greatest minds on earth still struggle to comprehend. Yet they retain their childlike joy and wonder in all they learn and do. I noticed another group of children tending to what appeared to be a magnificent garden. But this was unlike any earthly garden. The plants responded to the children's touch with visible love, blooming and growing in beautiful patterns. The children worked together in perfect harmony, each knowing exactly what to do without being told. They are learning about creation and stewardship, Jesus explained. Every flower here represents a prayer being offered on earth. The children help tend these prayers, watching them bloom into answers in my Father's perfect timing. As we walked further, I saw children engaged in what appeared to be artistic creation. But their art was alive with light and motion, creating scenes of such beauty that they brought tears to my eyes. Some were singing songs in languages I'd never heard, yet somehow I understood they were songs of praise and worship that would one day be sung on earth. The creativity they express here, Jesus said, flows directly from the heart of the Father. Every song they compose, every picture they create, becomes part of the eternal tapestry of worship that surrounds the throne. We came to a place where a large group of children were gathered around what looked like a pool of living light. As I watched, images appeared in the pool. Scenes from earth of people in various situations of need or distress. These little ones pray for those still on earth, Jesus explained. Their prayers are especially precious to us because they pray with perfect faith and pure love. They often see needs that even the angels might miss, because they retain their special sensitivity to the hurts and hopes of others. I watched as the children earnestly prayed for people they had never met on earth. Their prayers seemed to create ripples of light that spread out from the pool and disappeared into the fabric of heaven itself. I understood then that these prayers were being transformed into actual help and comfort for those in need. One scene in particular caught my attention. A small group of children was preparing what appeared to be a welcome celebration. They were creating beautiful decorations out of light and love, singing songs of welcome, and practicing what looked like a special greeting. They are preparing to welcome a new arrival, Jesus said, his eyes twinkling with joy. When children arrive in heaven, they are greeted not only by me and the angels, but also by other children who have gone before them. These welcome celebrations help ease any lingering fears or sadness they might bring from their earthly departure. The love and care these children showed in their preparations moved me deeply. They discussed every detail with such enthusiasm and attention, wanting everything to be perfect for the one who would soon join them. As we continued our tour, Jesus showed me what appeared to be vast libraries, but unlike any on earth. Instead of books, there were what I can only describe as living memories and experiences that the children could access and learn from. I watched as children studied the great acts of faith throughout history, not just reading about them, but experiencing them in a way that made them real and personal. Here, Jesus explained, they learn not just facts and figures, but wisdom and understanding. They see how every event in human history, even the painful ones, fits into my Father's perfect plan. They understand why certain prayers are answered differently than expected, and how every seeming tragedy can be transformed into triumph through faith and trust. I noticed that some of the older children were teaching the younger ones, sharing what they had learned with patience and love. There was no competition, no rivalry, just a pure desire to help others grow in knowledge and understanding. We came to what appeared to be a magnificent amphitheater, where children were performing what I first thought were plays. But as I watched more closely, I realized they were actually reenacting great moments of faith from human history. They were learning about courage, sacrifice, and love by experiencing these stories in a deeply personal way. Through these reenactments, Jesus said, they learn the true meaning of faith and courage. They understand how every choice made in love ripples through eternity. They see how the smallest act of kindness can change the course of history in ways that are only visible from heaven's perspective. I watched as they performed the story of David and Goliath, but with a depth of understanding that revealed not just the physical battle, but the spiritual principles behind it. The children playing the roles seemed to grasp fully the concepts of faith, trust, and divine purpose. As we moved through different areas of heaven, I noticed that the children seemed to be organized into what I can only describe as learning communities, but far more beautiful and organic than any earthly school. Each child was free to pursue their interests and gifts, but always in service to others and for the glory of God. Some children were learning about music, not just playing instruments, but understanding how the very foundations of creation are built on divine harmonies. Others were studying what appeared to be the physics of miracles, understanding how God's power interfaces with the natural world He created. In heaven, Jesus explained, learning is not a burden, but a joy. These children understand mysteries that the greatest earthly scholars can only guess at, yet they retain their childlike wonder and humility. They learn not to boost their own importance, but to better serve and glorify my Father. I noticed that some children seemed to have special responsibilities. They worked closely with angels, learning about different aspects of God's creation and how to help care for it. Some were even involved in what appeared to be the planning of future events on Earth, though I wasn't permitted to understand the details of what I saw. These little ones, Jesus said with obvious pride, are being prepared for eternal responsibilities. Every child here has unique gifts and calling that will find their full expression in the age to come. As we walked, I saw children engaged in what appeared to be intercessory prayer, but on a level I had never imagined possible. They were somehow able to see needs on earth and pray with perfect understanding and faith. Their prayers created visible ripples of light that spread out into the universe. The prayers of children, Jesus explained, are especially precious to us. They pray with pure faith and perfect love, uncomplicated by the doubts and fears that often burden adults. Many miracles on earth happen because of the prayers offered here. I noticed that time seemed to work differently here. The children were learning and growing, but not in the linear way we understand on earth. They retained their childlike joy and innocence while gaining profound wisdom and understanding. Jesus showed me how the children participated in welcoming new arrivals to heaven, especially other children. They had a special way of helping newcomers adjust to their heavenly home, sharing their joy and peace in a way that immediately put others at ease. Every child here, Jesus said, remembers their own arrival and the love they received. They take special joy in passing that love on to others. I saw children who had arrived in heaven as infants being tenderly cared for by older children and angels. These tiny ones were surrounded by such love and joy that they bloomed like flowers in the sun, growing in wisdom and understanding at their own perfect pace. The most beautiful thing I witnessed was how the children participated in worship. Their praise was pure and perfect, their joy complete. They sang songs that made the colors of heaven dance, and their prayers created visible ripples of light that joined the eternal symphony of worship around God's throne. As my time in heaven drew to a close, Jesus turned to me with eyes full of love and purpose. "Julia," he said, "I have shown you these things so you can share them with others. Tell them that their children are not lost, but found. Tell them that their little ones are not only safe and happy, but they are growing, learning, and serving in ways more beautiful than any earthly mind can imagine." I felt tears of joy streaming down my face as I looked at the children one last time. Their faces were radiant with peace and joy, their beings filled with perfect love. I understood then that death is not the end of a child's story. It's just the beginning of an even more beautiful chapter. Then Jesus said something that I will never forget. Remember, Julia, that these children are not just waiting in heaven. They are living, growing, and serving in ways that bring glory to my Father. Their lives have purpose and meaning beyond what any earthly parent could provide. Suddenly, I felt myself being drawn back. The last thing I heard was the sound of children's laughter, pure and perfect, echoing through the courts of heaven. Then I opened my eyes to find myself back in my broken body, surrounded by paramedics working frantically to save my life. The doctors later told me it was a miracle I survived. They couldn't explain how someone with injuries as severe as mine could recover so completely. But I knew the truth. I had been given a glimpse of heaven's glory for a purpose. Since that day, I've never been the same. The memory of what I saw has sustained me through many difficult times. Whenever I hear of a child passing away, my heart aches for the family's loss. But I'm comforted knowing the glorious reality that awaits these precious ones in heaven. I share this story not to minimize the pain of losing a child. That pain is real and deep. But I want to offer hope to those who grieve. Your children are not just waiting in heaven. They are living, learning, growing, and serving in ways more beautiful than we can imagine. They are surrounded by perfect love, filled with perfect joy, and growing in perfect wisdom. They understand things now that we on earth can only glimpse dimly. They see the bigger picture of God's plan and purpose. They know why things happened the way they did, and they want their loved ones on earth to know that everything will make sense one day. Most importantly, they want you to know that they are not lost. They are more found than they've ever been. They are not alone. They are surrounded by more love and joy than earth could ever offer. And they are not idle. They are actively participating in God's eternal purposes in ways that will amaze us when we finally understand. As I conclude this story, I want to emphasize that what I saw was real. It wasn't a dream or a hallucination brought on by trauma. It was more real than anything I've ever experienced on earth. The colors were brighter, the joy deeper, the love purer, and the peace more complete than anything we can imagine here. I know some may question or doubt my experience, and that's okay. I'm not sharing this for those who doubt, but for those who hope, especially for parents who have lost children and wonder where they are and what they're doing. Your children are in the most beautiful place imaginable, doing the most wonderful things possible, surrounded by the most perfect love conceivable. They want you to know that they are okay, more than okay. They are thriving in ways that earthly life could never allow. They are growing in wisdom and understanding, serving with joy, and waiting with perfect patience for the day when they will see you again. Until then, they want you to know that they are part of something more beautiful than any earthly mind can comprehend. They are not just waiting in heaven. They are living heaven's reality, participating in God's purposes, and helping to prepare for the day when heaven and earth will finally become one. And that, dear friends, is the most beautiful truth I learned during my brief journey to heaven, that death is not the end of any story, least of all a child's story. It's just the beginning of an even more beautiful chapter in God's eternal narrative of love.